All right. So, welcome everybody. We are super ecstatic to have you all here this afternoon for part two of our Recast and Beyond Strengthening Community Resilience webinar series. So, my name is Ebony Hooper Boating, and I am the Community Engagement Coordinator for the St. Louis Recast Grant. And so, I'd love to formally welcome you, and we will go ahead and get started this afternoon. So a little bit about St. Louis Recast before we get started, just in case. I know we have some people who know and some people who are new and hearing about us for the first time this afternoon. And so Recast stands for Resiliency in Communities After Stress and Trauma. And it's actually a $4.7 million grant that was awarded to the St. Louis County Department of Public Health in 2016. And so we are in our fifth year, and the grant focuses on 5 different funding areas: violence prevention, youth engagement, peer support, mental health, and trauma-informed care. And so that is what Recast is, but what we're actually doing is that we really work in collaboration with not only the community, but so many partners as well to really implement a participatory budgeting process. And so year after year, residents across North St. Louis County and North St. Louis City have come together, ages 11 years of age and up, to help design community projects, to help review the proposals that are submitted to implement those projects, and ultimately vote on which projects actually receive funding. And so that is kind of the crux of our project. And on the screen, you see some different pictures of not only residents who have participated, but as you can imagine, there's a lot of behind the scenes work that goes into implementing this process. And we have worked collaboratively with many partners, some of which are on the call this afternoon, to make this process happen. And so we have a core advisory board, myself, and Paula Sutherland, who is our program manager and in the chat chatting with you, and our DJ this afternoon. We make up the staff. But outside of that, we have our core advisory board, whom you'll hear from one of the members later on this afternoon, and several are pictured in this picture, who help behind the scenes. They help from facilitating community meetings. They help. We meet monthly to talk about how we can work together and bring systems together to really partner and advance not only the goals of the grant, but also outside and sustaining the work that's being done. So some of the entities and partnerships that go into this look like our city, St. Louis City Health Department, which Craig is on the call this afternoon. We also have members from St. Louis United Way, St. Louis Mental Health Board, the Missouri Foundation for Health. There's so many partners. From WashU, we have the Patient Research Advisory Board, which members are on the call and you'll hear from later this afternoon. And so I highlight that to say that this work could not be as successful as it is without collaborating and partnerships, and not working in silos, and partnering not only with how the grant goes itself, but the implementation of those projects by partnering with several grassroots organizations locally in our area. And so with that being said, today's focus that's dealing with fostering community networks and partnerships is really going to dive deeper into not only why it's important that we collaborate in projects, but also some of the how and how we can really build those true connections. And so with that being said, I want to segue to introducing our phenomenal guest speaker this afternoon, Marnay Morgan. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about her, but we could use the whole time to just talk about how awesome she is. And so Marnay Morgan, she is the owner and founder, CEO of Morgan Graves Consultants, or MGC, which was established in March of 2015 as a minority-owned consulting firm. And so their mission is to provide quality, integrity-based services for clients and partners, and really supports business development of solutions for both not only domestic, but internationally based entities as well. And so, as the founder and CEO, Marnay has over 20 years, you guys, over 20 years of experience in business and nonprofit and education sectors. Her background and experience ranges from strategic planning, the development of educational-based enrichment programs, leadership development, the activation of community-based partnerships and coalitions, and also work around advocacy and social justice. So she is really awesome. And when it comes to really understanding what it takes to build community networks and partner, she know what she's talking about, you guys. And so with no further ado, I hope you all are super excited to hear from her, all the wisdom she's going to pour. I'm going to transition to Marnay so that we can dive right in. So I'm going to pull up her slides. One moment. All right. And Marnay, are you able to see your slides?
I can't see it, so I just need to know how to advance it if I have shared screen capability and I can advance, or will you advance on your end?
I can advance it, but
Great.
you can see the slides though.
I can see it. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Ebony, thank you so much for that very kind introduction. I certainly have every intention of living up to that introduction. And thank you to the Recast team for inviting me to share this afternoon with everyone who has registered. Welcome to everyone who has logged on so far and registered. We're so happy to have you. As Ebony talked about in her introduction, we're going to take a look at defining true collaboration, looking at advancing your mission through collaboration, some key takeaways to building partnerships, and then finally, funding from a collaborative lens. So the first thing I want to talk about is why we put the word true collaboration. And it's important to make that distinction because oftentimes we believe that convening a group around a table or post-COVID virtual convening is what collaboration means. And while convening is a step towards collaborating, it doesn't really mean that this is what's happening. It simply says that you've contacted some folks and they've agreed to meet with you, and this is what you guys are talking about. But when you shift the thinking to true collaboration, it means that you have like-minded goals. You're thinking along the lines of building, development, expanding, and not just in conversation or dialogue, rather in action. What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? And why are we here? True collaboration is linking resources. True collaborators fully share in not only the vision, but also with the risk and the responsibilities and the rewards. So in thinking about nonprofits and how we're positioned in the community, I want to challenge you to think about what your position and what your work in the community really means. Singularly, what have you accomplished? What impacts are you having? And then how well can you measure or evaluate that work? And once you have a very clear understanding of that, then it's time to think outside of your organization and looking to connect with organizations who can support your mission and your bottom line. When you think about collaborating, the first thing you want to consider is the development of a community plan. What is this going to mean not only for your nonprofit, what is it going to mean to bring someone else to the table to consider this work? Think about visibility. Are you visible in the community? Do people know the work that you're doing? Do they even know you? And then if they know you, what is your claim to fame, for lack of a better way to frame that? Do people know you as the person who is the go-getter, the one who is always reaching higher, stretching, or are you passive in your thinking? I will tell you that collaborating requires a person to be truly a go-getter, understanding that you don't always have the resources, revenue, and linkages that are needed to fulfill the work. So without building that community network, you are stuck with, how am I going to get this done? How am I going to meet the bottom line? And between you and your board, those questions will come again and again and again. So I want to take us back to thinking about the value add that collaboration will bring, in that you have like missions, you are aligned in how you want to approach work in the community. And you're thinking about collaboration from the standpoint of diversity. You want to think about it from a creative process, and most importantly, the opportunity to increase capacity. And collaborating does not always require another nonprofit. You can collaborate in a non-traditional sense, in looking at building a volunteer base, collaborating with schools, collaborating with other entities that can help you support your mission, help support your bottom line, but stay focused on the work. When you're talking about collaboration, it's a voluntary coming together of like missions that is going to achieve a common goal. But at the same time, when we're talking about achieving goals, we also want to look at impact. What is this going to accomplish? What is the purpose, why we're doing it, and what difference will it make for the people that we are serving? You cannot be alone in working toward a community that is on the way to being blighted, or it's a area where there's not a lot of resources, there's not a lot of economic development. Collaboration is going to support turning that community around, looking at how we can be more impactful, more powerful, and achieve the desired results. When you're talking about collaborating, it's also important to make a distinction between collaboration and partnerships. Collaboration is a voluntary coming together, and it can achieve a lot of things with two organizations or more working together to identify those gaps between the two organizations, be it capacity, be it resources, whatever those gaps are. Collaboration is going to ensure that those gaps are closed. It's going to assure that you have the purpose that is in alignment in order to achieve those outcomes. Partnerships, on the other hand, represent something that is more formal, typically legally binding with an agreement or contract, bound in time. And it takes collaboration to a whole different level because you have agreed to support partnering with this particular person or entity for the work that you're doing. You may partner for a contract, you may partner for a project, or you may partner for the purpose of growing your organization through this other entity. What that will garner is credibility. If you could say that you partner with, for example, we have an established partnership with the Missouri Foundation for Health. That's going to provide leverage, credibility, and support in the face of your mission and what you want to accomplish for your organization. Some key steps to think about for building partnerships, first and foremost, is engagement. How do you begin to bring people to what your mission is and how that's going to be accomplished? Shared values. Certainly, this suggests that you would not take partnership lightly, just for the sake of saying, oh, I want to associate my name with that entity. No, it has to be lined up with your mission, with your board, with everything that your organization stands for. Trust, completely important, and not completely important, completely a priority and important, but I want to change the word important to priority. You have to know that this entity, organization is one that you can rely on to meet the bottom line. Linking resources, this is also very important. You may be a service delivery based organization with all of the services needed, but you do not have the technology. You do not have the infrastructure. Partnering with an organization that can provide those things would not only help to support further development and growth for you, but for you to achieve things beyond where you are. Evaluation and collective impact is critical because you are not partnering for the sake of just to have the partnership. Rather, you want to look at the outcomes. You want to look at collectively what impact you can have. And this is going to be something that is desirable to your funder. And then finally, you want to review the partnership or evaluate the partnership periodically to make a determination around whether or not this is something that can be sustained for the long haul, or if it's something that is just not working and the board has determined, along with the leadership team, that we need to part ways. I also want to consider non-traditional partnerships. It's easier said and done to link and partner, collaborate with other nonprofit organizations. Consider taking the work that you're doing to the next level with non-traditional partnerships. For example, if you are looking at, and I will use an actual example that for a partnership that I facilitated, and looking at fathers and Family Support Center. I'm trying to get their name correct now. They were Father Support Center at that point. And looking at St. Louis Community Credit Union. Well, the basis for Father Support Center's work is to reunite and engage fathers back to the family unit. And thinking about what it would take to sustain that family unit, I thought about financial literacy. St. Louis Community Credit Union has a community-based program that emphasizes financial literacy. In bringing those two entities together, not traditional, obviously one is rooted in the community, but not in the same way as a traditional nonprofit. That partnership turned out to be a very successful partnership for which it is still in practice today. So the key takeaway there is when you're thinking about who to partner with, first establish your purpose, then start to think about what this can essentially do for the organization in terms of your mission and your strategic plan. And looking at non-traditional partnerships can in fact work. Some of the benefits of collaborating and obviously partnering with other entities is attracting the funding. Most funding entities now are looking at the collective impact. How will this money be used to advance and support the community? Not singularly, just as your own nonprofit, your own mission, but collectively, what can you do? Also, the real key is leveraging those resources. What you don't have, where you have gaps, the partnership can help to secure those resources that are missing for you, and then add those resources for you. And then you're looking at the opportunity to build your network and base based upon how far reaching your collaborations into the community will really go. When you're talking about fostering community networks, of course, to think about next steps for building that network through collaboration, through partnerships. I want to shift the thinking to take us back to a more grassroots approach. Obviously, we have all of the technology that we need today, particularly around social media as the vehicle for us. And we tend to rely very heavily on those vehicles to help support spreading the word, connecting us, building our networks. And certainly those things work. But I would challenge you to think about reverting back to a more grassroots approach. Ebony talked about it at the top. In looking at those organizations who are deeply embedded in our community and going door to door, staging areas within the community to give us that visibility, making ourselves known in the community by the work that is being done. How well invested you are, not only to the work and to the mission, but the impact that you'll have in the community, your community investment. If you start to think about a grassroots approach where it's something that looks very similar to, hey, I'm thinking about a project. I want to change the landscape in this community. I want to change the way we look in this community. I want to garner an opportunity to bring this community together by building an established resource. Bishop Baker can speak to that because he's been working on just that type of project. And what you have to do is get out there, put yourself in front of, first, the residents in the community. Secondly, the other community-based organizations and nonprofits. And then finally, looking at who your community leaders are. Because when you're talking about collaborating, you want to do so with folks and entities who can change the bottom line, who can make a difference, who can allow some of those projects and things to move forward. So I will end by saying, when considering collaboration, first think about, and partnerships, purpose. Think about how you can expand resources, looking at opportunities to garner funding because of those collaborations, and then finally looking at collective impact. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Marnay. That was wonderful. I learned a lot too. And so on the screen there, you all, is Marnay's contact information. So that definitely, if you want to collaborate with her or partner with her, that you are more than welcome to reach out to her for further guidance. But at this time also too, we want to open it up for questions. If anyone has any questions, you can place them into the chat box, and Ms. Paula will let us know what's going on there. Or if you prefer and you want to verbally ask, you can also indicate that and we can unmute. And so while we're waiting for some questions to come in, I had a question, Marnay. What would you say are some of the barriers or maybe common mistakes that you, in your opinion, new organizations may make when seeking to collaborate or partner with others?
That's a good question. First, not doing your due diligence and coming to understand the potential partner or collaborator, doing your research to know where their community commitment and investment stands. Another mistake is to move forward just on the basis of completing a grant application. Oh, if we collaborate, we're going to position ourselves to be in a better position to get the money. Wrong answer. This should be something that is very intentional, very thoughtful, and ensure that as you are pursuing this collaboration, there is clear alignment with the values and the mission.
Thank you for that. I'm gonna flip it and ask the same question, but what do you think maybe some established organizations may, as you know, if they've been around for a while, and are there some things that, in your opinion, maybe established or larger organizations may make some mistakes as their tenure continues?
Now, that's an interesting question. Larger organizations, I would say the first mistake, if you will, or misstep, let's call it a misstep, is to think because of their tenure that a potential partner is in the pocket. Oh, well, we got this because we are who we are. And that may not be the case. I think in a case of a larger organization, the same considerations that a small organization should consider would be the same for a larger one, but not get too connected or tied to the fact that you are long-term, well-established organization, because you could benefit from a true collaboration, even if you're a large organization.
Thank you. Ms. Paula, are there any questions from our participants?
Not yet, but Bishop has his hand raised, but a couple of comments are thanks for pointing out the overuse of the terms collaboration and partnership.
Sure.
Peggy in Austin, the city of Austin says, I need Marnay to come speak to all of our artistic community in Austin, Texas. So amazing and spot on.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Peggy. And I'd be happy, I'd be honored to come and speak to your group in Austin. Please reach out and we can talk about that.
So Bishop has his hand up.
Okay.
Good to see you, Ms. Morgan. My question to you, because I know that you've probably been in some different spaces as far as speaking engagement with organizations who have had to pivot during this COVID pandemic. My question to you is, what are some of the things that you would recommend or suggest to an organization that is looking to reboot or to revisit a project like we was working on post-COVID? And how do you begin to shift the mindsets of collaborations looking at post-COVID? Because I think it's going to be even more important that we collaborate now than ever before. I believe this pandemic has created just that type of need as far as meeting the needs of our communities and our people that we look to serve.
First of all, Bishop, don't lose sight of the vision. That's first and foremost. Notwithstanding COVID and the impact that we've all experienced, stay true to your vision. Next step I would recommend is that you just start to reconnect with the core investment group or collaborators, as it were, that you started with. Stay realistic in your efforts to reconnect, knowing that some of those folk may have lost interest in the vision. Some of those folk may not even be reachable for whatever reason. And then just thinking about the impact of COVID overall, you just said it, the mindset has not yet shifted to, hey, we can return to some level of normalcy. They're still connected to the COVID. But what you have to do to determine that is just to jump in there and start that fire again. And people need to see that you remain as steadfast and passionate about your vision and what you see as potential and future transformation for the community.
Okay, well, I got one more question, Miss Ebony, and I'll be through.
Ebony, are we on schedule? Are we good?
Okay, my next question is this here. Okay, so when you're working to collaborate, how do you get the boards to come together? Okay, I got my board here, and the person that I'm looking to collaborate board is over here. How important is for the boards to be on the same page in order for things to move forward? Or what if you fall into conflict of interest with the boards?
That's a very good question. First of all, the community outreach or engagement folk are the ones who are setting the stage and tone for this collaboration. And as you are pulling together to look at what this work will be, how we're going to expand our resources and then the impact, the board has to accept and buy in to this before you even make this official. So in the case of a partnership, before any agreement is binding, before you have stated all the terms and what the timeline is, the boards have to agree. Now, in the case where there is conflict, we recognize and respect that the board is the governing body for the organization. So if there is resistance and conflict with one or both of the boards, I have to be very candid and honest and say that it is not going to work, because you have to follow the lead of the board. Now, the good thing about typically these collaborations and partnerships, boards don't usually get involved with day-to-day things. They typically want to know, okay, how much is this going to cost? What is the intended outcome? And what should we expect with regard to our funding partners? So in that space, you may not encounter too much resistance, but you cannot lose sight of the fact that the board is the driver for the organization. So to the extent that they are involved with day-to-day, and typically they're not, but if it's a smaller organization, they are involved. Yeah. So you have to be mindful of that, and typically there's no way around it.
Thank you.
Sure.
So we have one more question in the chat from Dialogue. Thank you, Marnay. How do we get community and neighborhood leaders to embrace a commitment to measurable outcome objectives?
You got to just keep at it. I would not be disillusioned in saying that, oh, you're going to go out and everybody is going to immediately be on board. No, it's going to take some tenacity, some perseverance, and just you grinding on that pavement and saying, hey, I believe in this and why. This is going to help us and why. Here is what we can essentially accomplish because we've come together. Leaders have their own agendas, as we know. They have their platforms that they present to us. And then some kind of way after a time in office, that seems to kind of fade. So it's up to you to demonstrate for that leader that I am totally married to your community platform. And this is how I want us to move forward. And then try to demonstrate through your evidence-based research how this can essentially work, looking at other areas who have done something very similar, and then try to influence a commitment to those outcomes, measurable outcomes.
Thank you, Marnay, and thank you everybody for the awesome questions. We're always excited to hear from everyone that's present and be able to dig a little deeper into specifically what people would like to know and hear. In the chat box, again, Ms. Paula has added Marnay's contact information so that you all are able to stay in contact with her, or if this really sparks your interest and you're like, I may need some some further info here to be able to work with Marnay and utilize those services that she offered. Definitely are super happy to be able to make that connection. And so thank you again, Marnay. That was wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so I am going to, we still have some more time. So of course, we have some more information to follow up with you all. If you do have to leave early, then before you go, we do have our feedback and evaluation form, and also another way that we're keeping track of attendance here. So please fill that out. If you're watching the recording, then you'll also receive a link to be able to fill that out as well. And so now I'm going to share my screen back to share a little bit more about some of the recast efforts around system connection, as well as sustainability, because Marnay mentioned how, that it's important to think about, collaborations and visions and goals beyond that of a funding period. And so in the beginning, you may recall that I said that Recast is a 5-year initiative and that we were in the 5th year. And so because of that, we have really been working around 4 different sustainability efforts, and one of which are definitely very connected to what we'll be talking about, which is system connections. And then, I'll be sure to drop it in the chat box as well. Marnay had also talked about, because of Bishop Baker's question about boards, and actually next week, you'll be able to hear more from Marnay through an event with the Black Funders of St. Louis, all about cultivating an effective nonprofit board. And so I'll be sure to drop that in the chat box. And I do have on here some things for our PRAB, which I'm about to introduce another one of our core advisory board members, Carlette Lewis-Roan, who is a member of our Recast core advisory board and representing the Patient Research the Patient Research Advisory Board, which is out of WashU, Washington University of St. Louis, for those who are not familiar with our area. And so, all right. I'm gonna make sure you all can see Carlette. Thank you for being patient with me.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Paula and Ebony, for inviting me to join this webinar. Appreciate your time. I won't hold you all long. I just want to emphasize that PRAB has collaborated, partnered with Recast over the past 5 years of this grant through SAMHSA. And we are excited about all the opportunities that we have to work with all the stakeholders, members of the community, and it has been very exciting. Are you advancing the screen or am I, Ebony? You want me to take control? Okay, thank you. So very briefly, this just gives an overview of PRAB, what our mission is. We are helping to build bridges in the community between the researchers at Washington University, also between other stakeholders that we work with, to have a collaborative framework through community-based participatory research, which is the approach that we use to engage community stakeholders, representatives of organizations, researchers, et cetera, in our efforts to improve the health and well-being in our communities, as well as having more information about health literacy, improving the health and quality of the outcomes through health promotion activities and disease prevention initiatives, et cetera, and other research studies. So the members of, you can advance, thank you. And the members of PRAB went through a research training program at WashU, Community Research Fellows Training Program, and there are a few members on the call right now who also attended and are alumni. And this is how PRAB started. Actually, we have that common mission of going through this class. So much like Marnay mentioned, having a shared mission. So we have that mission match, so to speak, not only as CRIFT alumni, but with Recast. So we have used the skills that we gained through this program, learning about research methods and other public health issues, to go out into the community to do some advocacy and work on those important and emerging health issues. So just to let you know that this is the brainchild of Dr. Melody Goodman. She started this in Long Island, New York. There have been other programs in Jackson, Mississippi and Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Currently, we have our 6th cohort going on. They're expected to complete the program in August of this year. So we're excited about that. Thank you. Next. And so basically, this just shares a little bit more information about what I just stated, the collaboration of PRAB, members coming together. Everyone comes with their own set of skills from their lived experience and work in the community. They are dedicated to learning more about research and how to go and help in the communities in a number of different ways, whatever their passions are. So again, we have a variety of different projects that we work on to build bridges. We work with Missouri Foundation for Health, reviewing grants. We work to help nonprofits develop their business plans, served on boards, et cetera. So as we go on in the presentation, there'll be a little more information about some of the things that we've done. So next, please. Thank you. And this just shows some of the ways that we've engaged in the community, serving as advocates and on forums, advisory boards, informing and guiding and reviewing grant proposals, et cetera. So just being a community link, a resource for others as well. Thank you. And more about our collaboration with Recast. We got started again right after this proposal, this grant was funded, and just give some more detail about that. So I won't hold you all long and go into that. We do have members of the Community Research Fellows Training Program who served in the capacity of delegates. They serve on the Community Guiding Board with Recast. So many of the members who've gone through our program are serving on the Recast program spectrum in one way or another. So this again is the Promise Zone communities, which is the target population and target area that the program is focusing on. We are, as Ebony mentioned, looking at sustainability efforts to keep the program operating with the tiers of systems connections, economic mobility, and some others. So looking at this community, which we live, work, play, and pray, those social determinants of health are very prevalent. We are hoping to, as a systems connection group, identify and develop sustainable communication systems that incorporate mechanisms to engage the community, provide feedback and information on some current health disparities or other public health concerns. So we are looking to collaborate with you, members of the community, Promise Zone residents, and other metropolitan area members, and out of state, those of you who are visiting from out of state, to join us and working on these committees that we have and helping us to implement that after this grant has been ended or ends in September. So again, we invite you to join us. And again, we serve as research participants. We do advocacy, community engagement. We'd love to help you if you are a nonprofit and need us to review grants or provide some guidance of any kind. We are welcome to doing that. And any questions? There is a screen that shows our contact information if you're interested in reaching out to us. And I put the website in the chat if you're interested in becoming a CRIFT participant. We accept applications as well, and that'll be next year. So again, I wanted to be brief, and thank you so very much for your time today. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Carlette. And then while we still have you here too, I believe there may be a date that they could save for PRAB in August that maybe you want to.
We welcome you to the CRIFT annual event and the 8th anniversary of PRAB on August the 14th. It's a Saturday. Tentatively, it is 11 until 2. We hope that you will be able to join us. We will be sending out some information shortly on that, how to register.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes, and so, the PRAB is doing wonderful work, and really just as an example, earlier when I was mentioning some of the different entities that we partner with with Recast on our core advisory board. And so, it really speaks to, when we think about partnerships and collaborations, kind of why we wanted to have this webinar this afternoon and talk about, the importance of not, working in silos and how much can be accomplished when we come together, not only for the communities that we serve, but also internally for our own organization growth and development, and just really being able to amplify our impact, which this entire series is focused on. And so, as Carlette mentioned, within that systems connection, sustainability efforts going on with Recast, that goal of really being able to create that network of organizations to really build out the structure here in our region, in the St. Louis region, to really help focus on and improve, health disparities and social determinants of health. And some of the strategies that the group thus far, just to kind of share what that group has really been working towards, is really thinking about the use of technology, as Marnay mentioned, also thinking about social media and other mediums for frequent communication and community to be able to share information with the community on a real-time basis. And so for an example within our area, an example of that would be like 211. And so they've really been working collaboratively. And so if you registered for the email, we'll be if you registered for the webinar, we'll be following up as there may be surveys and different opportunities for you all to be able to share back how we can, in that area, how we can be of assistance and to be able to really make those connections happen and that system shift in our region. And so at this time, I do want to open it up again if there are any questions. Any questions or anything. Again, in the chat, there are the links to the webinar next week for cultivating a board, and then as well as Save the Date and our evaluation and feedback form are all within the chat box. And then also too on our end, this series is actually a 3-part series. And so the third and final piece of this series, at least, is happening on not next Tuesday, but the following June 29th, same time, same place. So that it'll be about effective grant writing. And it says 101, but since we heard your feedback and everything, and it's kind of like a 201 to really dive in a little deeper about not only, you know, how to search for grants and determining, you know, your eligibility or capacity to be able to meet the funder priorities, but really looking at, you know, the strategies and things. What are the grant reviewers, what are they looking for to say that, you know, this is competitive, or reflecting on afterwards if, you know, you didn't receive the funding, like, okay, what things can be changed? And so we are really excited about building capacity and being able to offer a webinar like this. And for those that may have been familiar with Recast, Brandon, I say we, but Brandon will also be taking some time to kind of just highlight briefly kind of what is the difference, maybe some traditional funding opportunities versus something like with Recast, and really honing in on kind of ensuring like what are the differences sometime between the different funding opportunities, and how we may have to, you know, be responsive to that, how we might have to shift maybe some of what we may typically submit, how we have to make sure that we're having that focused lens when responding. And so with that being said, are there any questions or comments as it relates to anything that was discussed this afternoon, whether from myself, Carlette, and Marnay also hung around if anyone had some questions come up about that?
This was my first time attending one of you guys' webinars and event, and I will have to say I really did enjoy it. I look forward to Mr. Sterling presentation on the 29th. Men of Valor is in the process of applying for funding from the St. Louis County Children's Fund. And so I'm really looking to hear from him to see how we can glean from the information he's going to give to put together a very strong proposal to submit. And so this is right on time. I mean, you're talking about a set time. This is a set and divine time for Bishop, I consider. This gives us the opportunity to, you know, we're starting writing now, but this is going to give us 2 weeks out from when the application is due. So I really like to just give kudos to you and Ms. Sutherland, and it's so great to have individuals that are really invested in our community in the Promise Zone area at this particular time. I feel this is a very strategic time, so be encouraged, keep up the good work. Ms. Sutherland, I mean, your smile is just so beautiful, and Ebony, you just is a lit orator. So hey guys, I give it to you guys. Thank you very much for this, for Ms. Lewis today and for Ms. Morgan. You guys have really given some very valuable information that has been refreshing to Bishop Baker. I'm in Dallas at this particular time, but when I heard about this, I couldn't help but to come. And I say thank you guys, and keep up your great work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And the only thing I would like to add is that in addition to this webinar series, we are also partnering with the St. Louis Mental Health Board, and they're providing technical assistance for Recast as well. And so they have what's called First Fridays, where you could actually sign up and sign up with them, and they will actually review your proposal or talk about anything that you want to talk about in regarding to your small business or your organization might be evaluation, it might be writing a proposal. And I know Lisa Potts was on here earlier. I think she's one of the individuals with St. Louis Mental Health Board that assists in that matter. So I can make sure we have your contact information. I can make sure you're added to our distribution list so that you might be able to take advantage of that. But again, it's the first Friday, so it might be past your submittal date, but that's a service that's available through Recast as well.
Thank you for sharing that, Miss Paula. And thank you all for joining us this afternoon. We hope to see you all again next week, and feel free to spread the word if you know anyone that's like, yes, we need to learn more about grant writing. We are looking forward to that next workshop, which will be on the 29th. So thank you so much for joining, and we hope to see you all again soon.